Here at the National Conference for Media Reform with Lisa Graves from Center for Media Democracy, PR Watch, and a host of other groups, ALEC Exposed. Tell us a little bit about ALEC. For people who don't know, and what you've done with Common Cause, Color of Change, and a bunch of other groups to fight back.
ALEC is an acronym for the American Legislative Exchange Council. It's not Alec Baldwin. It does a lot of bad things. ALEC has been around for 40 years, but it really didn't get much press attention until after a whistleblower contacted me and gave me all the bills that had been secretly voted on by corporations and politicians, voting as equals, behind closed doors. Those bills include bills to make it harder for Americans to vote, to make it easier to get away with killing someone, shooting someone, bills to make it almost impossible for you to sue if you're injured by an FDA-approved drug, bills that basically would privatize education, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, anything that's not nailed down, and some things that are. And so we launched alecexposed.org in July of 2011, and then we started really pushing the story out. After the terrible tragedy of Trayvon Martin, my office connected the dots between that bill in Florida and the NRA and the NRA's role in ALEC, and ALEC ratifying that bill as a national model. And so suddenly the mainstream media, the corporate media, was interested in it. They were less interested before that happened, and since then there's just been really sustained coverage of ALEC's machinations all over the country in all sorts of ways.
So special interests crafting legislation and putting it in the hands of legislators, particularly at the state level, but is this in Congress too?
Well, there are numerous ALEC alums in Congress, including the two most powerful men in the United States House of Representatives, John Boehner and Eric Cantor, are ALEC alums. There are a number of ALEC alums in the United States Senate, including Senator Orrin Hatch and others. There are a number of ALEC bills that have moved in the federal legislature in Congress, but the state effect of ALEC has been just devastating. They've had hundreds and hundreds of bills pass that have made it harder for Americans to basically accomplish their vision of their own vision of the American dream, their hopes for their kids, because this is an operation that largely basically takes our tax dollars and takes them out of building our public institutions and puts them into private profits for ALEC corporations.
But this is a nonprofit doing lobbying work. Is the word fraud relevant here?
Well, Common Cause has filed an excellent complaint against ALEC through Bob Edgar, through his personal suit. That complaint is based on documents that we've obtained and the Common Cause has obtained that show extensive lobbying by ALEC. ALEC is a 501c3 organization. That means every dollar given by David Koch and Charles Koch and Koch Industries and the other mega billionaires that are part of ALEC, and the tobacco companies and the oil companies, that's a tax write-off for them, because ALEC says it engages in zero lobbying. And yet we have email after email after email showing them asking for bills to be introduced, asking for bills to be passed, and urging that they be passed very quickly. And so I think there's a darn good case that ALEC has violated the IRS rules.
So I want to talk to you about the victories in terms of getting major corporations to step out of ALEC. But before we do that, are there any states where we've now forced disclosure about this sort of relationships?
Well, there are a number of states in which bills have been introduced, in Arizona and Wisconsin and Minnesota, and I think New Hampshire, or perhaps New Hampshire soon, to get disclosure. None of those bills have been successful, in part because, at least for the first two that popped in Arizona and in Wisconsin, those legislatures are controlled by ALEC members, by ALEC legislators. But I think that those bills will ultimately see their light of day, because as people learn about corporations voting behind closed doors with politicians, and these corporations paying for trips to go to these luxury resorts to vote behind closed doors with corporations, people are mad. Doesn't matter what the political party is. They're mad, and they ought to be. So working with Color of Change and Common Cause and other groups, ALEC Exposed has really pushed a lot of these big corporations to back down from their role in ALEC. What are the numbers like now? Well, when we launched ALEC Exposed in July of 2011, we counted over history nearly 700 corporations that have been part of ALEC, including some of the biggest corporations in the U.S. and in the world. Since the campaign that Color of Change really started to spearhead, and we had a Coca-Cola campaign as well, and a number of the unions have had campaigns to get these companies to divest basically from ALEC. 44 corporations have dropped out of ALEC, including 2 in the past month. So that campaign is ongoing. In addition, 71 legislators have dropped out of ALEC. They've announced they don't want to be part of it, and over 100 legislators who were ALEC members lost their seats, either in the primaries or in the general election in 2012, or left office. And so there's been a substantial impact on ALEC ALEC through this campaign. At the same time, I would say some of these corporations are going to other groups to try to do their business. So for example, Jeb Bush's Foundation for Excellence in Education, a misnomer if ever there was one, now includes some of the corporations that have left ALEC that are trying to privatize education, including a group I wrote a report on late last year called K-12, which is taking your tax dollars. 95% of their revenue is from your tax dollars. Their revenue has increased from $200 million to over $700 million a year. They pay their CEO nearly $500,000 a year in salary, plus he's got over $25 million in stock. And ALEC and these ALEC legislators claim teachers make too much.
Lisa Graves, Center for Media and Democracy, thanks so much for talking on Free Speech TV.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.